Welcome back YouTube to Icy Chap's Edge. I'm Icy Chap here today with a short video on knife fighting tactics. Specifically, I want to deal with folding knives. Now, a lot of reviews of folding knives consider the tactical utility of the blade, but never address how to actually employ the knife for that purpose. This is not an instructional video. I am a martial artist, but I am not a knife fighting instructor or expert by any means. This is just a demonstration of something that works for me, and obviously the most important consideration is to use whatever tactics will work for you. This happens to work for me, and you may not like it, but I wanted to demonstrate something I feel is a shortcoming of folding knives when used for fighting, and this technique may overcome it. The main weaknesses of folding knives that people acknowledge are their size and the inherent weakness in the design. On some of these knives, and this is the Ontario Rat 1 folder, and this is the Columbia River M1613Z, they have decent sized blades for folding knives, but they're still smaller than most tactical fixed blades. And they're also in two pieces. That's an inherent weakness of the folding knife design. But there's actually a third very serious problem if you need a folding knife to save your life. And that's simply the fact that you have to open it first. Now, there are lots of very fast knives that deploy smoothly, like both of these. They open very fast. But they share the same problem as any other folding knife in that once they're open, are you really situated to put them into action? Now, you'll notice that when I deploy this knife, I still have to move my fingers to where they need to be to actually execute a hard stab or any kind of slash. I still have to wrap my fingers around the handle, wrap my finger around that choil or indent, and get my thumb either behind that jimping or against the handle where it needs to be before I can execute any kind of attack. Now, you'll notice the same thing with the Columbia River. After I deploy it, I still have to move my grip until I can use the knife effectively. Now, that is going to cost me precious time to move my hand. And in a fight to save my life, that is the one thing that I might not have. Well, I have something that might be a solution, and that is to use your thumb in that choil instead of my index finger. Once my thumb is in that position, I have a secure enough grip to execute a hard stab or a slash, and I have a lot of positive control. And the most important thing is I do not have to move my fingers. I'll demonstrate again. When I open the knife, my thumb is right where it needs to be. I don't have to move my hand or my fingers, and I can right away execute a very hard stab. My thumb is going to be behind that choil, pinching the blade between my index finger and my thumb. So I have a lot of positive control. This is a very strong grip. I can tell you that I have practiced this against layered cardboard with basically maximum strength. And I've had no problem using all of my strength, and I still maintain positive control on a slash or a hard stab. Now, there is one major shortcoming to this grip, and that is if you want to employ your fist as a weapon in combat, you can't really do it safely with this grip. If I want to punch, obviously number one is I don't have an ideal shape to my fist, but number two is the edge is going to be pointing back at me. And that is something that you never want to do. If I use a positive overhand grip, I can still use my fist as an effective weapon, and that edge is going to be pointing away from me. So for punching, it's actually not as safe a grip. But for knife fighting, I think it's actually better. Not only because it's faster, but if you notice, my blade is actually basically oriented parallel to the ground instead of perpendicular. In a positive overhand grip, the flat of my blade is up and down to the ground. But in the side grip, or whatever you want to call it, the flat of my blade is actually parallel to the ground. Why is this better? Simply because if I encounter bone, specifically in the rib cage, I want my blade oriented so that its flat is parallel to the ground so that I can penetrate ribs. I don't want to get my blade lodged against any ribs. So for stabbing, I actually think this is a much more effective grip, and I'll demonstrate it again with both knives. I deploy and I'm right there. Very comfortable, and I'm telling you I've tested this and I can use all my strength without any risk of injury to myself. And again with the Columbia River, my thumb is right there. I did get caught up there. You saw a little bit on the finger guard, but imagine how much longer it's going to take for me to rotate the knife in my hand and get my finger behind that guard. True, you can practice that technique and get faster with it, but I find, for me anyway, that this is just a much more natural grip because my thumb and fingers are already where they need to be. As soon as I deploy the knife, I'm ready to execute a hard stab or defensive or offensive slashes. So that is my technique, and I feel it's an improvement in speed, which is really the most important thing if you're fighting for your life. So give it a try, maybe test it against some surfaces and see how it feels for you. I definitely appreciate any comments and feedback you have. Let me know what you think. And of course, always be safe. Thanks for watching.